The SmallCapPower CEO interview. Featuring Allana Potash. Allana is a publicly traded corporation with a focus on the acquisition and development of potash assets internationally, with its major focus on a previously explored potash property in Ethiopia. Allana has secured financial support from two significant strategic investors, IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, and Liberty Metals and Mining, a member of Liberty Mutual Group. Allana has approximately 222 million shares outstanding and trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol AAA. In March 2012, SmallCapPower was pleased to meet with President and CEO Mr. Farhad Abbasov, where he told us more about Allana Potash.
Allana Potash focuses on the development of its Ethiopian potash project in East Africa, and we started with the project about 3 years ago. We have de-risked the project tremendously through both financing efforts as well as technical work. We've done a very large-scale exploration program, and we've drilled over 40 holes. We have updated our 43-101 resource report about a half a year ago. And we currently have about 600 million tons of measured and indicated category resource and about 600 million tons of inferred resource. As you might remember, we started out with this project with only 105 million tons of inferred resource. On top of it, we also completed our PEA, preliminary economic assessment, late last year. And the economics looks very good. It looks like it's going to be one of the lowest cost operators and lowest CapEx projects in the world.
Can you give our viewers an update on your feasibility study?
Of course. As I mentioned, the preliminary economic assessment was done in November 2011. And in conjunction with 43-101, we decided that we have enough data and enough resource to start full feasibility study. And full feasibility study will encompass all the components of production, meaning that it will start with solution mining, testing, to solar evaporation ponds, all the way to flotation. And in between, we're also going to do some rock mechanics test work, as well as we've engaged a hydrogeological firm to do drilling and do water studies to determine what kind of hydrogeological regime we're dealing with in that part of the country.
Can you describe the infrastructure around your Ethiopian project?
Infrastructure, when we came to this region about 3 years ago, there was very poor infrastructure. But thanks to the efforts of the Ethiopian government, they've rebuilt the access road that comes to our project at their own cost, and now we're using that road primarily for our supplies, and also to bring in not only the regular supplies but also big equipment, etc. At the same time, the government is also helping us now with a new road that leads directly down south to the port in Djibouti. And that road is mostly done out of 650 kilometers. We have 150 kilometers left of this road, and the government road crews are working very actively on it. So we're hoping that before we hit production, this road will be operational, and this road will be a fully paved highway. And most of this road goes through the desert area, so it will not hit any traffic congestion areas at all, so which is very important for us. At the same time, we're looking into the port situation in Djibouti. There's an existing fertilizer terminal in Djibouti, but most importantly, the government of Djibouti is also planning to build a brand new terminal in the northern harbor, in the northern part of the harbor, and that is the port we're going to target for our operations, for our port needs. And recently, the government has actually has made tremendous progress in that regard. And we've been in contact and working very closely with the Djibouti government. The port that is going to be built there is called Tajura, and that will allow us several advantages, one of which is the fact that it will be a brand new port, brand new terminal, and it will be built according to our own specifications, and that's critical. And secondly, because it's going to be in the northern part of the harbor, we don't have to go all the way down through the city of Djibouti and hit the congestion on the way to the port. And that will, in general, cut out about 50 kilometers of the overall distance from our project all the way down to the port. So it is really advantageous location for our project. Now, in terms of our relationships with the government, we've had tremendously productive and friendly relations with the government. The government has been not only supportive of the project through the bureaucracy, through permitting, etc., but they've also been supportive in terms of actually investing in the infrastructure. As I mentioned, 2 years ago, they rebuilt about 60 kilometers of the access road segment, and now they're building, again at their own cost, about 150 kilometers of the road leading to the project. On top of it, the government obviously supports us in other areas, especially thanks to the fact that we've been doing a great job with advancing this project, but also it's been our policy to employ as many Ethiopians as possible. 90% of our workforce right now at the camp and in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, is comprised of Ethiopian nationals.
Allana has attracted some very high-profile investors. How are these investors helping your project?
International Finance Corporation is a member of World Bank Group. It's probably the largest international multilateral development agency in the world. In 2011 alone, they invested $18 billion in private enterprises in the developing nations. It's a very important investor for us to have. We are the only potash company in the world that IFC has invested in, and we're really proud of that fact. IFC has a very high standards of operations. They have very high standards for due diligence. Also, they have very high standards of requirements of the investee company in terms of its operations, in terms of its compliance with both health and operating procedures, as well as environment and local government and local community work. So for that purpose, we've done a lot of work to meet their obligations, their requirements. But most importantly, IFC is an organization that sets a very high standard bar for us, which also helps other prospective lenders do their due diligence on Allana as the time comes. IFC also, we are hoping that they will support us at the construction stage with both equity and debt investment. And again, the fact that IFC is an investor in Allana actually says a lot about the project and also the country of Ethiopia. You also mentioned Liberty Metals and Mines. It is also one of the prominent private equity funds out of the United States that specializes specifically in mining industry. And again, we became the first publicly listed company in which LMM invested. They've done a very thorough due diligence on the company and the project, and again on Ethiopia. And they've decided that this is a project that has a very high potential for them. And they've invested already now twice in the company in 2 tranches. And the last financing that we're doing right now, which we've completed the public part of it, and now in the private placement, they're going to come in again with about another $4 million along with IFC. So with these 2 organizations as our major shareholders, we already have a much higher level of assurance that we will be able to get this project financed, in addition, of course, to credit money, the credit funds that we're hoping to secure in the next few months.
What plans have you considered to de-risk the project?
It's very important for any mining project, but especially for potash project, to start planning for financing well in advance. As you can imagine, potash projects worldwide require very large, high capex expenditures and capital expenditures. And in case of some other typical potash areas, such as Saskatchewan or Urals in Russia, we're talking about several $billion to bring a project into production. In case of Ethiopia, as you've seen from our PEA, at this point we estimate that all-inclusive capex for our project to produce 1 million tons of standard MOP product will require about $800 million. And that includes port expenditures, port capex, as well as trucking and so forth. For $800 million, although it's probably half of what is required in many other parts of the world, it's still a very large number for a young junior company. So with that in mind, we started planning for it long in advance. And you can see that that was part of planning that we brought in Liberty Metals and Mines. We brought in International Finance Corporation. And we also engaged BNP Paribas, one of the premier French banks, specializing in arranging debt financing for projects like ours in Africa, to start working towards arranging a very strong project finance package for our project. And they've been doing the work in the last several months. And you probably saw it recently in our news that after initial discussions, we have initial formal expressions of interest for up to $600 million, actually above $600 million. And if you can look at our capex requirements as of today, $800 million, we basically have more for the debt that we've initially planned. We were planning for about 60%, but it looks like we can get more credit for our project. So that is a major advancement for us, because that tells us that probably in the end we'll need to raise between $150 and $200 million in equity to actually take this through construction. Now, as you know, we are probably one of the best funded junior potash companies in the sector. We already have about $70 million in the bank. So you can do the math that we're almost halfway on the way. Of course, there is still quite a bit of work to be done. We still need to do due diligence, or the prospective creditors need to do due diligence and finalize it. But the fact that we started early on will give us a lot of comfort in terms of keeping this project on track. So meaning that as a feasibility study is getting completed, all our prospective lenders will have all that information in advance to make the final decision. And then we think that it will be important for us to have our existing strategic investors, as well as new ones that are interested in Allana, to come in and invest in the equity side. And that will allow us to finance it completely. So we've done, we've made a tremendous progress in the last several months towards de-risking the project financially.
Can you tell our viewers how you see the macro environment for supply and demand for potash?
Potash has been, in hot commodity for quite a while, but we saw in 2008 and early 2009 the demand subsided, and with that the price came down. And in the last several months we see various declarations coming from major potash using countries, consuming countries such as China and India, that they will buy less potash or use less potash, and as a result, major potash producing regions, or major potash producers, I should say, such as Potash Corporation of Saskatchewan and others, started curtailing their production. They started actually decreasing their production in order to match supply, so that they can stabilize the market and keep the price stable. So we think that in the next few years there will be a very healthy situation of potash supply and demand. And we plan, as you know, to bring our project into production in 2015. So we believe that by that time there will not be a lot of supply coming online, or there will be enough supply to match the demand. In our particular case, we think that we're sitting in a sweet spot in terms of our location. Not only will our project have lower costs compared to many other projects worldwide, but most importantly, we're also on the eastern coast of Africa. We're going to be the nearest supplier of potash to India and one of the nearest suppliers to China. And also, we're not going to be in a typical potash producing regions of the world, such as Saskatchewan or Russia, which, as you know, are cartelized in terms of their producers. So I think we'll have a much better chance of being able to sell our product to Chinese and Indian markets. And also on top of it, I must say that even before we hit production, we will probably have an offtake in place. So we'll have a guaranteed offtaker before we even get to production.
What do you see as the major catalyst for investors in 2012?
We'll have quite a few milestones in this year. In a few weeks' time, we'll have to come up, we're planning to come up with a 43101 update. We've been drilling since the last one, and we've drilled probably, by that time, we would have drilled about 25 to 30 holes, extra holes. And that will help us update 43101, move quite a bit of inferred resource into measured and indicated, and also increase the total resource numbers. And at the same time, as the drill holes come out, obviously we'll continue announcing the results. On top of the technical, or I should say, of the exploration and resource update, we're also, as we talked about, we're conducting a feasibility study. And as part of the feasibility study, as different components of the feasibility study, different tests are completed, we will announce them to the market. Those are critical tests, especially on hydrogeological situation, solution mining, solar evaporation, and also how the flotation process will work. And so those will be major milestones. And of course, milestones like the one we announced earlier today, which is the financing or debt financing situation. Now, hopefully that will be getting finalized as we move forward. And we also continue advancing our talks with strategic investors / partners and off-takers. And I think that will be another critical component of de-risking the entire project. We think that in the next few months and maybe the next few weeks, we'll have major developments in that regard.
You can stay on top of the Allana story by visiting their company hub on SmallCapPower.com. There you'll find free research reports, analyst commentaries, and bulletins. And for daily updates on all your favorite small caps, don't forget to sign up for our daily newsletter, exclusively at SmallCapPower.com.